ॐ तव कथामृतं तप्तजीवनं कविभिरीडितं कल्मषापहं श्रवणमङ्गलं श्रीमदादतं भुवि गृह्णन्ति ये भूरिदा जनाः. Sri Ramakrishna Kathamrita, the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. Dakshineshwari Thakur Sri Ramakrishna Pratham Darshan 1882 March. We are also in March now, 1882 March. So, along with Sidhu M., the recorder of the Gospel, Master Mahashaya, he goes to Dakshineshwar, roams around and finds a place so charming. Go to Sri Ramakrishna's room, and there is a servant maid. Her name is Brinde. Very interesting. Brinde has just one line dialogue in the entire Kathamrita. She appears only once, and the words of wisdom this illiterate, uneducated lady speaks are remarkable, elevating. Just listen. M is asking Brinde, Haga Shaduti Ekhon er bhitor achen? Well, is the Paramahamsa, the sadhu, the holy man, in the room just now? Brinde, ha, এই ঘরের ভিতরে আছেন. Master, ইনি এখানে কতদিন আছেন? Brinde says, yeah, he is inside. And then Master is asking, for how long has he been staying here? Brinde, তা অনেক দিন আছেন. These village folk, they don't have count of time, years and so on. Very approximately she says, oh, he has been there for so long. Master, acha, ইনি খুব বইটাই পড়েন? Because he is a great jnani, a man of great wisdom, and he speaks words of wisdom. So obviously he should be a person who is well versed in so much of literature. He reads a lot of books. That is the popular notion. Does he read a lot of books? Brinde, আর বাবা বইটই সব ওর মুখে. There are just 7 words. আর বাবা বইটই সব ওর মুখে. Just 7 small words which contain the essence of the wisdom taught in the Upanishads. Naisha tarkena matirapaneya proktanyena sugyanaya prishta. This Atman cannot be attained by tarka, by debate, and this can't be realized by reading a lot of books. Na bahuna shrutena Nayamatma pravachanena labhyo na medhaya na bahuna shrutena. This Atman cannot be realized by tremendous intellect or by reading a lot of books or listening to discourses. We have a popular conception of knowledge. Knowledge is that which is acquired through books. Knowledge is that which is cultivated through education, training, and so on. But here is a man of wisdom, of illumination, whose knowledge is just there with him by delving deep into himself and reading the book of life. Sermons in stones, good in everything, the Shakespeare's famous lines. So you see in Brooks, when the river is flowing, it's telling you its story. And the mountain paths, the grass, the greenery, and the stones by the wayside, all of them are speaking to you, giving you the wisdom which is inherent in you. So the fundamental truth about Vedanta is that all knowledge is there within you, and all that education does is to uncover or discover. Discovery means taking off the cover. Knowledge is hidden in you, covered by ignorance. As the Bhagavad Gita puts it, Ajnanena avritam jnanam tena muhyanti jantavaha. Jnanam ajnanena avritam. Jnana, knowledge, avritam, covered, ajnanena, by ignorance. Ignorance covers knowledge, and therefore you are unable to have access to knowledge. We believe wrongly that we acquire knowledge from books, from outside. Knowledge is not acquired from outside, but knowledge is discovered within, and when the inner book opens up, the spring of knowledge gushes forth, then you realize that the external world is just an occasion to trigger off the discovery within. This is one of the most fundamental doctrines of Vedanta, which Swami Vivekananda emphasized time and again. His concept of education, which is well known, which is epitomized in a pithy sentence, aphoristic sentence which he spoke, wrote in a letter, education is the manifestation of the perfection which is already in man. You have perfection already within you, you manifest it. When we talk about evolution, you should remember the Vedantic idea of evolution. Vedanta does not accept evolution of consciousness, spirit, but it accepts evolution of nature, which makes the manifestation of the spirit possible. Mark this word. Evolution of nature and manifestation of the spirit. This is Swami Vivekananda's golden sentence. Nature evolves in order that spirit may become more and more manifest. Swami Vivekananda gives the example of a screen. I am sitting here, and so many people, physically, virtually, they are present, they are listening. If there's a screen between us, then I will not be able to see anybody, although I know that people are present. Now, if there's a small hole in the screen, I will be able to have a small view of the people on the other side through the hole. As the hole becomes larger and larger, more and more people will come to view. And when the hole covers the entire screen, which means the hole is so big that the screen itself vanishes, then the entire group of people on the other side who were invisible because of the screen will be seen, realized. In this example which Swami Vivekananda gives, what is it that has actually happened? The people, the audience, have not changed at all. They are there earlier, they will be there later. But the realization of the presence of the audience was hampered by the presence of an obstacle. When the obstacle is removed, the presence of the people automatically, without effort, is realized. So the people, the scene which has been covered, becomes manifest through uncovering or discovering. What we call discovery in science actually means you remove the cover from the knowledge which already is there. Then, when the hole in the screen evolves, more and more of the substance becomes manifest. In exactly the same manner, when the spirit vision, which is covered by ignorance, covered by an obstacle, pratibandhaka as it is called in Vedanta, becomes more and more manifest when the obstacle is removed more and more. So there's an evolution of nature making it possible for the spirit to become manifest. The Atman within is shining, is self-luminous. It is the embodiment of infinite existence, infinite knowledge, and infinite joy. Sat Chit Ananda Swarupa. Existence absolute, knowledge absolute, and bliss absolute. But why is it that we are unable to realize it? That is because the obstacle of the body and the mind. Vedanta talks about Pancha Kosha. Kosha means covering. Each one of them is an autonomous self with the laws which govern each of these levels. So they are called Atma. Annamaya Atma, Pranamaya Atma, Manomaya Atma, Vijnanamaya Atma, Anandamaya Atma. Shankaracharya calls them coverings, kosha, because the Atman within, the shining real self of man, all beings, is covered by these Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, Vijnanamaya, Anandamaya koshas. When the koshas are removed one by one, the self within shines forth. See, Ramakrishna gives a simple example of peeling of an onion. Those who have seen an onion, you keep peeling the layers of the onion one by one. As you keep peeling the onion, you go to the kernel and you find there is no kernel at all. Which means that which is within the infinite self, covered by the ego, and you realize the ego doesn't exist. When the ego has been realized to be unreal, what is real just shines forth. What is real can't be expressed in words, by thought, by language, by imagination, because the moment you express or describe the reality, it ceases to be the reality. By definition, then ultimate reality is that which is beyond time, space, and causation. All words, language, thought are within the realm of time, space, and causation. Therefore, that which is beyond time, space, and causation is inexpressible, indescribable, unthinkable. Ashabdamasparshamarupamavyayam tatharasam nityamagandhavachayat anadyanantam mahatav param dhruvam nichayatan mrityumukhat pramuchyate. Kathopanishad. Having realized the Supreme Self, one goes beyond sorrow, one gets released from the clutches of birth and death. What is that? Ashabdam, not describable by words, asparsham, untouchable, arupam, has no form, which means Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha, the five senses, the eyes which see, the ears which hear, the mouth, the tongue which speaks, the nose which smells, and the skin which touches. These are the five sense organs of knowledge. These senses reveal to you the external world. But the Atman within cannot be expressed by the senses because it is beyond time, beyond space, beyond causation. You may ask whether such a thing exists at all. The argument is, assuming such a thing does not exist, the world will become meaningless, because if everything changes, how do you measure change except with respect to that which is changeless? So, this infinite self, Ashabdamasparshamarupamavyayam nityam, it's eternal, anadi, ananta, it's beginningless in time and endless. By knowing this alone, a man becomes immortal, the eternal message of Vedanta. So we think knowledge comes from books. From outside. Knowledge does not come from outside, knowledge comes from within. মাস্টার সবে পড়াশোনা করে এসেছেন, ঠাকুর শ্রীরামকৃষ্ণ বই পড়েন না শুনে আরও অবাক হলেন. Master M has just finished his education at the university when he heard that Sri Ramakrishna does not read in a book. He was simply flabbergasted, wonderstruck, became speechless. How is it possible for a person to acquire knowledge without reading books? The idea that knowledge is there within you, perfection is within you, that has to be revealed, manifested, uncovered, is entirely new to the Western culture in which Master Mahisha grew up. In India, we always say it is there already within you. Uncover it, discover it. The example given is a light within, and because of the thick blockade of the impure mind and body, we are unable to see it. Purify it. When you purify it, and like a glass case, it becomes translucent, transparent. Then you see the light within shining. What has happened? The light is shining all the time, but the opaque character of the coverings did not allow you to see that light. শ্রী রামকৃষ্ণ বই পড়েন না শুনে অবাক হয়ে গেলেন। মাস্টার, আচ্ছা ইনি বুঝি এখন সন্ধ্যা করবেন, আমরা কি এই ঘরের ভিতর যেতে পারি? তুমি একবার খবর দেবে? Once again the influence of the Western culture. Privacy. This word we have picked up from the West. In India there is no privacy at all. All the doors and windows are open all the time. In the villages you can see there is no lock system at all. It's all open. People are pure, people are innocent, people don't steal others' property, people have so much of faith in God, they have no greed of others' property. It's all open. There is no private life and public life, which has killed the entire society. What you are in public is the same as what you are in private. The inner and outer, public and private, the manifest and the unmanifest are one. Sri Ramakrishna's small living room at Dakshineshwar, having half a dozen doors, windows, all the time open, whether he is sleeping or eating, sometimes with clothes, sometimes without clothes, whether he is taking bath. All the time it's open. Anybody can walk in and walk out. Because our life should be like an open book. I am like an open book. Anybody can read my book. The moment you cover up, you conceal, you hide, and you are secretive, then there's a serious problem. Bhagavan Buddha once said, Ehi pasya, ehi pasya. Pasya means pasya, see. Come and see, come and see. It's an open challenge he is throwing to humanity. Come and read the book of my life. And he made a very devastating statement. Secrecy is a dharma, is a characteristic of prostitutes and not of a person who claims himself to be a man of God. A man of God, a spiritual person, a saint, has no secrecy. Everything is open. Because he has no need for secrecy. What he is outside, he is inside. Sri Ramakrishna told his disciples, test a holy man by day and by night. And just like a money changer tests the coins, whether it is genuine, test a holy man. In those days they used to have golden coins. Sometimes they may be counterfeit, sometimes may be adulterated. Just to check it, from the sound they will know, they take the conch, then toss it like this. Yeah, that's genuine. So just like a money changer tests the coins, you test the sadhu, test the holy man, whether he is genuine, whether he is really holy. For which Ramakrishna says, in those days, nearly 170 years ago, how? By day and by night, what he does during the day and what he does during the night, whether they match, whether what he speaks is what he actually does. Our speech, our action, and our thoughts should be in unison. That is purity, that is truthfulness. Satya means your speech and action should become one. Your thought and speech should become one. Sri Ramakrishna repeatedly taught this lesson. If somebody asks you, can you summarize the teaching of Ramakrishna in just 2 sentences, it could be, Mon mukh ek karo, ভাবের ঘরে যেন চুরি না হয়। মন মুখ এক করো। Make the speech and the mind one. What you think, you try to speak, and what you speak, you try to do. You just try this for 6 months. You will know how difficult it is. And if you can succeed even to a very small extent, you will realize within the power of truth. Try this. These are all challenges which our rishis have thrown to us. These are not mere words and mere instructions. They are open challenges. Try this and see how your whole personality becomes charged with the power of truth. Swamiji wrote in a letter to Miss Mary Hale, I will compare truth to a corrosive substance of infinite power, which burns its weight wherever it falls, in soft substances at once, in hard granite slowly, but it must. Truth is a corrosive substance. It has to corrode. All impurities will be simply burnt away by the power of truth. That's why our founding fathers of the Indian Constitution chose this motto from the Upanishad, Satyameva Jayate. Truth alone triumphs. What is truth? Vak, speech, and mind should be in unison, and speech and action should be in unison. This is called Satyam and Ritam. These two words are commonly used. Satyam vadishyami, Ritam vadishyami. In the Shanti mantra in the Upanishads, I shall speak the truth, I shall live the truth. Satyam and Ritam. Rhythm is also the cosmic order. The whole world is going by a huge order, cosmic order which is called Rhythm. It's called Rhythm Brihat. Brihat means huge, big, infinite. Rhythm means order. This cosmic order, Rhythm Brihat, is the truth on which the entire world is based. Vang me manasi pratisthita, mano me vachi pratisthitam. The Upanishadic Shanti mantra, my vak, speech, should be established in the mind, and my mind shall be in turn established in speech. Mon mukh ek karo. And bhaver ghore churi koro na. Let there be no perjury, cheating in the holy shrine of the heart. Bhaver ghor means the shrine of bhava. Bhava is a very difficult word to translate into English. A bhava means attitude, feeling, sentiment, emotion. It means all this. A bhaver ghore, in the shrine, in the holy shrine of the heart, there shall be no perjury or cheating. তোমরা যাও না বাবা, গিয়ে ঘরে বসো. Brinde says, just go and sit. Master Mahasaya M, educated in the Western way, is hesitating. Should I go now? We make an appointment. We send a visitor's card, and then you are called. Purely Western ideas. that has its own utility and system. But as far as the holy man is concerned, God doesn't require a visiting card for you to go to Him. He is your very own. You go to Him any time of the day or night, anywhere, it's all open. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, one of the greatest incarnations of love in the modern times, has a beautiful stotra, hymn called Shikshashtakam, 8 verses giving instructions. Siksha. He says, "O Lord, how great your mercy. You have created so many names of yours, Nama, and each of these Namas, names, have been charged by your own power. And there is no definite, fixed time or place for chanting the name. Anytime, any day, anywhere, anybody can chant the name of God and become liberated. Such is your enormous, immense mercy and grace. And so huge is my misfortune that I do not have any love or attraction for your name. Nam namakare bahudha nija sarva shaktis tatrarpita niyamita smaranena kala etadrishi tava kripa bhagavan mamapi durdaiva midrisha iha jani nanuragaha. What a touching statement. So much is your glory and your mercy and your grace. You have no restrictions. Anytime, anywhere, anybody can chant any name. Hundreds of thousands of names you have created. And the unfortunate thing is, I don't feel attracted to your name. So he says, anybody at any time can approach God. Go and sit before Him. Don't be shy. Don't hesitate to go to Him. God's doors are always open. The children can go and approach the parent, the mother, the father anytime. There is no restriction. He is your very own. This is one of the important qualities of God in the Vaishnava Sampradaya, Ramanuja Sampradaya. Among the many qualities there is Saulabhya. Sulabha means simple, easy. So He is easy of access. Easy accessibility of God is one of the most fundamental qualities of God. He is so easily accessible, so easily available. Saulabhya. And He is so full of love and compassion. Anytime the child can approach the mother. So here is God sitting there in Dakshineshwar, inviting people to come to Him anytime. And this illiterate, uneducated lady, the servant maid Vrinde, who was taking care of Sri Ramakrishna's room, sweeping and washing the utensils and so on, serving God 24/7. Look at the fortune of that lady. What is the use of her education and learning and study? She understood the significance of the incarnations coming to the earth. He does not read any books because he doesn't need to. Shabur mukhe. He has all the books on the tip of his tongue. That means when the inner book opens, no external input is necessary. It's a glorious book. Swami Vivekananda writes in one of the speeches, he speaks of the book of God. The universal religion. Is God's book ever finished? Vedas and the Bible and the Quran and the various religious scriptures of the world are but so many pages of that book. An infinite number of pages are yet to be written. So look at the language and the sentiment. God's book is never finished. Hundreds of thousands of pages have been written in terms of the various religious scriptures of so many religions, but still hundreds of pages are yet to be written. It's a glorious, beautiful book of God, and that God's book is your own soul. In the modern language, you say, you see the signature of God. God has signed everywhere. When you see a beautiful mountain, God has signed there, I am here. When you see a beautiful lotus flower, God has signed there, I am here. And when you see a very ugly scene, something which and a very foul-smelling scene, even there God says, I am there as the foul smell. I am there also as the good smell. I am there as the beauty. I am there as the lack of beauty. Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Shanti Rupena Samsthita Namastasyai 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 Namo Namah. That supreme divine power called Devi, present in all beings as Shanti, peace. I bow down again and again to that. Following that says, Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Bhranti Rupena Samsthita Namastasyai 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 Namo Namaha. That divine power, the Devi, present in all beings as Bhranti, delusion, confusion, wrong understanding, that's also she. Matta Smritir Jnanam Apohanam Cha. The Bhagavad Gita, as Bhagavan says, from me comes jnana, knowledge, smriti, remembrance and memory, and apohana, the lack of all these. Jnana goes away, ajnana is replacing jnana, that's also me. There is nothing in the world which is not he. God's signature is everywhere. It's called Vibhuti Yoga. The 10th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita is called Vibhuti Yoga. Vibhuti means the signatures of God. The DNA, the double helical structure was discovered by Watson and Crick in 1953. The DNA carries the signature of God. You know, each of these DNAs, it contains 100,000 coded messages. Can you imagine that? Each one of them. 100,000 coded messages. Genetic code. Just like now you see in your Aadhaar card or in your airport pass, the boarding pass, you will see a small diagram. If you scan that, all the information that you need about you is there. That's why they say the boarding pass you should not throw away like that. You should tear it to pieces and throw, because anybody by scanning your boarding card in a small, complicated, small electronic diagram which is there, by scanning that, they can get all the information about you. All that is you is in that. It's exactly in the genetic code. There are all characteristics about yourself. Everything is there in that genetic code. We call in India samskaras. Samskara means the latent tendencies which you have. We call it the Brahma Lipi, as if Brahman, the Creator God, has written something on your forehead. Kapala Lipi. In India it's very common. What is to be done in my Kapala, in my forehead, all this is written in my Kapala. That means that's the genetic code. And a book on biology, physiology will tell you that every one of these DNA cells contains 100,000 coded messages. If the entire thing is decoded and a typist sits down and types the whole thing out, it will occupy a 1,000-volume encyclopedia. That is the glory of one single DNA. And you have billions and trillions of such DNA cells. And sitting in this multiple cell system, this glorious kingdom of the spirit, you are crying, I am small, I am weak, this man is my enemy, I hate this man. Are we not ashamed? Even a book on biology will tell you how glorious we are. What to speak of spirit and holy books and so on. A simple book on biology will tell you about how glorious the human body is, the cell system. Think of this. Meditate upon this. So the entire world is permeated by God consciousness. He has signed everywhere. God's signature is present everywhere. Isha vasyam idam sarvam yatkancha jagatyam jagat. Ishavasya Upanishad says the entire universe shall be pervaded by God. তখন তাহারা ঘরে প্রবেশ করিয়া দেখেন ঘরে আর অন্য কেহ নাই। ঠাকুর শ্রীরামকৃষ্ণ ঘরে একাকী তক্ত বসিয়া আছেন। ঘরে ধূন দেওয়া হইয়াছে, সমস্ত দরজা বন্ধ। মাস্টার প্রবেশ করিয়াই বদ্ধাঞ্জলি হইয়া প্রণাম করিলেন। ঠাকুর শ্রীরামকৃষ্ণ সহিত বসিতে অনুজ্ঞা করিলে তিনি শুধু মেঝেতে বসেন। So Master Moshe till then was trained in the Western method. He simply bowed down like that. A holy man, you should prostrate flat. In India it's very common. It's called Dandavat Pranam. Pranam means bowing down, Namaskara. And Dandavat means like a stick, Danda. You fall flat. Sashtanga it is called. Sashtanga, 8 angas. What are they? The head will touch the ground, the 2 hands and the 2 feet. 5 and manas, buddhi and ahankara. The mind, the intellectual intelligence and your egoism. All these 8 are surrendered to God. They bow down in great humility. It's called Sashtanga Namaskara. It's called Sashtanga Pranam. So, the idea of Sashtanga Pranam is very common in India. Somehow we think these are very, very difficult things to do, and this means surveillance. We are independent, free beings. It's only egoism. And we always think spiritual things are very difficult. And we think that those who are truthful, who are pure, are usually disliked by others. When we talk of truth, speaking the truth and being truthful, we always think that is not possible, and those who speak out the truth are not liked by people. This idea is once again born of a peculiar idea of egoism. It does not mean you should hurt others. In the name of frank speech, many people are fond of hurting others. I speak out the truth. That's why nobody likes me. Nobody likes you because of your huge Himalayan egoism. Hurting others by open speech is not spiritual life. Anudvegakaram vakyam satyam priyahitam chayat swadhyaya abhyasanam chaiva vagmayam tabauchyate. The Bhagavad Gita says, anudvegakaram, speech should be in such that it should not cause any sorrow or hurt to anybody. Satyam, it should be truthful. Priyam, it should be sweet, acceptable, affable. Hitam, it should be beneficial. Difficult to balance, but we normally think nobody likes me because I speak out the truth. If somebody speaks out the truth, sir, to you, how would you react? It's very easy to say, I am open-minded, I speak out. I am very frank. If somebody else is frank to you in the same way, at the smallest instance you flare up. I've seen so many so-called frank speakers and who pride themselves saying, I'm very frank and open, I speak out the truth. With Himalayan egos, they talk about being frank in speech to others, but they can't bear the slightest criticism against themselves. So let us not talk big. Let us be humble first and know that speech and thought becoming one and speech and action becoming one does not mean you can talk anything you feel and you can do anything that you speak. No. It means bringing the speech, mind, and action in unison based upon a divine perception that the same divine is present in you and everybody. We glibly talk about frank speech. Thoughtlessly we hurt others in the name of frank speech. And then we think we are so truthful that nobody likes you. A person who is truthful will be liked by everybody. If your truth hurts others, that means you are speaking out of egoism and not truthfulness. If you really have no malice against anybody, even if you speak out frankly, people will admire you. Look at Ramakrishna, for example. How many instances do you want from the Gospel of Ramakrishna? When Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyaya, Sahitya Samrat, was such a great literary figure in those days, Sri Ramakrishna snubbed him openly. Then the great humility has accepted what he was told because Sri Ramakrishna had no malice. We hurt others in the name of frank speech because of our hatred and malice and jealousy. Don't confuse these things. When spiritual virtues are being talked about, we immediately confuse them with our own proclivity towards egoistic assertion. Sri Ramakrishna slapped Rani Rasmani openly. It's recorded. Rani Rasmani was the queen of the estate. And Ramakrishna was just an ordinary employee drawing a salary of 5 to 7 rupees. She came, wanted to listen to a song on Mother. When Ramakrishna was singing, her mind was wavering. Just a stray thought came to her about a pending case in the court of law. Sri Ramakrishna gave her a slap on the cheek. Even hear that thought? Was Ramakrishna disliked by Rani Rasmani? Apachanda Sudha Chilona, she revered him like God because he alone could do it. He had nothing but love, nothing but affection, nothing but extreme compassion. So don't talk big about Pachanda and Apachanda and so on without knowing what is being talked about. These are great spiritual virtues. Clean yourself totally of all hatred and malice, jealousy and envy. Then practice all this. in the name of frank speech, we go about hurting others and claim that we are great spiritual frank people. So here is Ramakrishna sitting there quietly in the temple, inside his room, and Master Masha is bowing down like this in the Western fashion. We are many times hesitant to bow down Dandavat, Sashtanga Pranam, because we think it's surveillance in the Western culture. It is not surveillance. It is surrendering to the divine. The divine great Lord is before you in His infinite glory and majesty. Before the infinitude of God, the majesty of God, you realize your littleness, and your little ego completely crumbles, collapses and surrenders to the infinite. That is the meaning of Sashtanga Pranam and Dandavat Namaskara. ঠাকুর জিজ্ঞাসা করিলেন, কোথায় থাকো, কি করো, বারাহ নগরে কি করতে এসেছো ইত্যাদি. So he asked him where you come from, etc. But Master Masha notices now and then he becomes so-called absent-minded. Remember, we call it absent-minded because we judge it from the worldly standards. It is not absent-mindedness. It is that the mind refuses to come down to the plane of worldliness. The mind which is soaring high in God, great difficulty had to be brought down to the ordinary plane. Remember the great difference between the minds of these incarnations of God men and ordinary people, sadhakas like us. We have to struggle and struggle to take our mind up. 100 times we struggle and we climb up a couple of inches perhaps, and then the mind comes down several hundred miles. That's our situation. But in the case of men of God, like Ramakrishna and so on, the mind is soaring high. And their sadhana is how to bring the mind down so that they can compassionately deal with us and bless and grace us. So his absent-mindedness is not because of worldliness, because the mind again and again soars up into the infinite. With great difficulty there to bring the mind down. How many times in the Gospel of Ramakrishna you get that touching scene in this Ramakrishna is crying, "Oh mother, don't make the mind go soar high up. Please bring it down so that I can converse with the devotees, talk to them, enjoy the bliss of God in the company of all these devotees." That sort of compassion is called avatarana, avatara. So the mind comes down, the avatara comes down, so that we can climb up. His avatarana coming down is because he wants our uttarana climbing up. The compassion of the Lord is reflected here. Then Sri Ramakrishna used to go now and then into this kind of mood, and Master Masha came to know this kind of mood used to come upon him very often. ঠাকুরের সন্ধ্যার পর এরূপ ভাবান্তর হয়, কখনো কখনো তিনি একেবারে বাহ্যশূন্য হন. When the dusk, when the sun sets, there's a huge change in nature. Suddenly there is absolutely everything is dark. Well, you don't see anything. And you ask yourself, what has happened to the world? Then when the nature changes, its state, phase of nature, then the mind soars high up in the realm of God. It's called Bhava Samadhi. In a Bhava, a spiritual mood elevation of spiritual consciousness, the mind gets lost in the infinite. Master, আপনি সন্ধ্যা করবেন তবে এখন আমরা আসি? Perhaps you will now do your twilight practices. Once again, remember, all these practices are for a jiva, for an ordinary person. For them, the only practice is Jagat Kalyana, Jiva Kalyana. Good of the world. Ramakrishna Bhavastha na Sandha atta emon kichu noy. Oh, that is nothing. Still is in Bhava. আর কিছু কথাবার্তার পর মাস্টার প্রণাম করিয়া বিদায় গ্রহণ করিলেন। ঠাকুর বললে আবার এসো। This is a great mantra which you learn from Sri Ramakrishna. Whenever we meet some Western people who do not know Bengali or from people from the south and other states, I always teach them, please carry these two words spoken by Sri Ramakrishna, a great mantra, abar esho. Abar, again, esho, come. Ramakrishna is asking us, abar esho, come to me again, again and again and again and again. I am just waiting to grace you and bless you. You may go away for some time from me, but remember you are bound to me by eternal love and grace. আবার এসো। মাস্টার ফিরিবার সময় ভাবিতে লাগিলেন, এই সৌম্য কে, যাহার কাছে ফিরিয়া যাইতে ইচ্ছা করিতেছে? বই না পড়িলে কি মানুষ মহৎ হয়? কি আশ্চর্য! আবার আসিতে ইচ্ছা হইতেছে। ইনিও বলিয়াছেন আবার এসো, কাল কি পরশু সকালে আসিব।